Good evening. Good evening. Just want to thank you guys again for rocking with me on the Conversation 9-8. I'm very happy to be back, excited about this week, and looking forward to the conversation today. I know going into the new year, already in the third week, almost the first month of 2023 is almost over with. So, time don't wait on anybody. So just looking into that and enjoying life. And I'm just happy to be back. And I hope everybody is having a good time and things are going well. Like I always do, I really appreciate the continued support. I appreciate people rocking with me. It means a lot. Means more to me than what you know. And make sure you share this. Let me know where you're tuning in from. And we're going to get right on with this thing, man, because tonight is going to be a good night. It's going to be a good night. But besides all, man, thank you again. Really do appreciate it. So tonight I'm paying homage to the Negro Leagues, Kansas City Monarchs. That's what I'm rocking with them tonight. So just go check them out. Also, too, if you get a chance, if you're in the Kansas City, Missouri area, they have the Negro League Museum right next to the Jazz Museum. Great time to just go in and see a lot of the history and with that. But again, man, thank everybody for tuning in. Got my mom tuning in. Hey, Mom, how you doing? What's going on, Heather? How you doing? Thank you for tuning in. But again, we're going to get right into it, right into the episode. So tonight, we're going to talk about stop trying to make other people responsible for your decisions and insecurities. And one of the reasons why I thought about that is because so many times in life, we want to make other people responsible for the stuff that we do. We don't like being held accountable, and that accountability when people, most of the time, right, we try to make other people responsible for things that we are a result of our decisions, right? I'm not responsible for a choice you made. I'm not responsible for your insecurities. And a lot of times we try to make people responsible or take accountability for something they had nothing to do with. And yeah, people can be there with you. They can assist you, right? They can be there with you as you go through whatever you're going through, but they're not responsible for your insecurities. I didn't cause that. I wasn't the cause of what you may be dealing with. I can be there to help you, but I'm not going to take responsibility for it because that responsibility lies on you. It lies on you. 100% lies on you. And so many times we like to make people responsible. We love to make people responsible. And the reason why we like to make people responsible is because we get the onus off of us. We get the onus off of us. And it's an easy thing to try to do to get the onus off of us because guess what? It makes us feel like, it makes us feel like it's a good thing, if that makes sense. It makes us feel less responsible or less guilty than what we really supposed to do. Less responsible and less guilty. And the reality is this. The reality is it doesn't matter about if you feel responsible or less guilty. If something is if somebody else didn't cause it, then why are you trying to make other people feel responsible for that? Or you see what I'm saying? Why we do that? And the reason why we do that is because naturally, it's a natural inclination of our human nature is to pass the blame on somebody else. It's a natural thing. And the reason why it's a natural thing is because we really don't like, and it's not a natural thing. It takes some maturity and it takes, it is not hard to have somebody want to point the blame at other people. It's not hard. And it's so easy to play victim when we know the responsibility was ours in the first place. That's what we do. We like to do that because we want to play the role of a victim, because playing the role of a victim in a way try to convince us, and we try to convince ourselves, a lot of ourselves, like we're not responsible. But at the end of the day, that responsibility stays with you. Nobody else. It stays with you. Manipulate the situation all you want to. At the end of the day, you still gonna have to face you. You still gonna have to face you. My mom said it. She said sometimes it's the attention of being the victim. Yeah, it's the attention of being the victim. But many times it's this. Many times we like the attention of being a victim in situations. That's why we try to put the blame and stuff on other people. But playing the role of the victim will never take away from the reality that you are the source of what is happening. Or you cannot outrun your decisions. You can try to blame somebody else all the time. And listen, just because something may have a, and this is it, right? Just because something has an explanation, that doesn't mean that it is a justification. And the reason why is so many times we feel like just because we can explain, and I can explain that, hey, this happened to me because of X, Y, and Z. Yeah, but that still doesn't justify the fact that you made certain decisions. You made certain decisions. Yes, something can influence you, but you got to take ownership of what you allowed to happen or what decision that you made. Take ownership of it, and then you'll realize once you start doing that, you realize things will get better. Now, not only that things will get better, what you will start to realize is this: when you take ownership of your actions, when you start taking ownership for the choices and the decisions that you make, and not get into this cycle of a pity party of one other, blame other people or make other people responsible for your choices and your insecurities, when you start taking ownership of it, what you will realize is you will start to empower yourself to overcome those very triggers or those very things that cause the insecurities. And you will start to do that. And what you will realize is you will realize the power that you already have and how much power you were forfeiting over to the things you was running from. That's why you try to make other people responsible for it, because we are fearful of facing it ourselves. And we have to get to the space, right, that we have the courage to say, you know what, I'm going to face me because I can do better. I'm going to face me because I'm tired of allowing something else to control me and have power over me. And the reality is we can do it. Yes, it's not an easy thing, but we got to stop doing it, man. We got to stop. I'm telling you, so many of us, and it's very sad, but so many of us have wasted years of our lives trying to make other people responsible for stuff that we have had full control over. We wasted years of our lives doing it. And we are hoping that, and by doing that, we were just hoping somebody else would come and take that burden off of us. But the reality of the burdens that we're dealing with or had to deal with is a result from our choices and our decisions. Our choices and our decisions. And at the end of the day, we have to realize the power that we have in our decisions, our ability to make a choice. Yes, something can impact that, something can influence that, but at the end of the day, you make the choice. It's not somebody else. And once we start getting away out of that cycle of a pity party, what we'll start to find out is our life will be more abundant. It will become more abundant because we'll realize we have a lot more power in the sense of, okay, if I take ownership of something, you can walk boldly with it. You know, and that's a real good point. When you start taking ownership of stuff, right? And it's a funny thing, like it's funny thing, and I can remember my son is in college right now, and I can see a maturation in him when, you know, now he has things that he has worked for and things that he has paid for and things that's in his possession, right? That he had put the work in, and now he got ownership of it. And because it's his ownership and he had to put the work in it, his perspective changed. And he takes more because he paid for it, because he worked for it, because he has ownership of it, he can walk different with it. He appreciated more. And that's the same thing I'm saying. When we start taking ownership of our choices, we walk different in it because we can appreciate, or we won't be so controlled or upset about the consequences because we done already did the work to make the choice. We owned it. Miss Paige Banks said, for so long we live like what we learned and feel that it's the way things should be. But once we find out that we're not the victim, it's us. We blame everybody else but us. And that is so true. And I really appreciate that, Miss Paige Banks, because, you know, listen, in the words of Coach Curtis Smith, he said, everybody got an excuse and all of them stink. And the reason why he said that is we love to bring excuses, right? And it's funny. This is the funny thing about excuses, because we love to make excuses for ourselves, but excuses we only find excuses. We only tend to find excuses for things that we don't want to do or don't want to endure. When we have something that we generally want to do, we generally want to make happen, no excuses or no barriers will stop us from going after and getting it. So excuses are only really used by those who want to get a pass, those who don't want to deal with themselves or want somebody to feel sorry for them when they have the power to make another decision. I'm not saying that I'm not talking about that we don't have things we won't have to overcome, but excuses, we got to stop it. We got to stop trying to use excuses to justify why we still choose to make those decisions that we have to live out the results of, and the results of it we don't like, but we don't want to make changes for it. We don't want to make changes to our behaviors. We don't want to make changes to our decisions. We don't want to make changes to the things that are manifest. We don't want to make changes to our lifestyle but we still want to desire to reap the benefits of something different. That's insanity. That right there is complete insanity. And the reality is we have to do better. Like our lives is a result of our summations of our choices. And either we can sit down and try to blame other people for so much stuff that we go through, or we can start to just come to a realization, come to a reality to say, you know what? I'm responsible for this. So I got to do better. And I'm not going to use any excuse. I'm not going to look for anything. I'm going to take responsibility from today so that I can move forward and I can do better and manifest better for my life later on down the line. And I would tell you, it's a powerful and freeing thing when we get to a space that we can do that. It's a very powerful and freeing thing. But we have to get there, right? So many of us are living our lives waiting for somebody else to take responsibility for decisions and choices that we make. And we waste so much time waiting on other people. But when the person that we should be dealing with is looking right back at us, and the reality is would do you wrong. Yes, people will hurt you. Yes, things will happen to you that you had no control over. Yes, we acknowledge all of those things. And I'm not saying those things aren't true. But what I am saying and what I am suggesting is just because somebody may hurt you, you still had the power of the decision and the choices that you made. So stop trying to hope somebody come and take accountability for the fact that you made those decisions. And a lot of us make decisions out of a place of hurt because we refuse to make the decision to go deal with our pain so that we can heal and we can make a more logical, reasonable choice. But we don't want to do that. We want somebody else. And just because, and this is the other thing, just because somebody hurt you, and even if, and you're waiting for them to come and take ownership for it, even if they come and they take ownership of what they supposed to did to you, you still got to deal with the consequences of your choices that you made while you were hurt. So, and you can still try to make them responsible. Yes, they may have hurt you, which may have led to you making certain decisions, right? Yes, two things can be true. That can be a fact. But the reality is, even in that choice, just because they may hurt you and it caused you to make a choice, or it led to you or influenced the choice that you made, you still got to deal with the consequences of the choice that you made. So, or what insecurities may come in, you have to deal with that. You can try to blame other people. You can point the blame at other people, but you the one that made that decision. And as soon as we get to that space and take ownership of it, a lot better. Our lives get a lot better with that. Ms. Paige Vance said, I'm going through that right now. However, I've been told several times that I'm only making excuses. And the situation has caused me so much pain. I'm trying not to blame anyone else because I'm definitely responsible for it. I got to change my way of thinking in this situation. And I would say this, right? I'm not saying that what other people, and I want people to really understand this, right? I'm not saying that the pain that other people cause us is not real. I'm not dismissing that how pain can really lead us to make irrational decisions. I'm not talking about that. I'm not dismissing it. I fully acknowledge that. What I am discussing is that when those decisions are made, right, we are responsible for our decisions, regardless of the influence. Right. And a lot of times we try to make other people responsible for the consequences or the insecurities or our insecurities of things based off decisions that we made. And they are not responsible. They may have done things to cause it, but we have to get to a space to where, you know what, I'm going to get to a space to where I'm going to make a decision that I'm going to start taking ownership of my choices, regardless of what somebody else influenced. I take ownership of my choices. Mama said things like happen. It hurts. It brings joy, but reality is we are responsible for our own choices. And Mama said probably because we don't want to deal with the actual hurt. And yes, that's a reality. And this is the thing, right? When we don't deal with that and we try to make other people responsible for our insecurities, that making people responsible for our insecurities cause a lot of frustration on people that had nothing to do with it. People had nothing to do with how you was raised. The people had nothing to do with how you was neglected. People had nothing to do with the hurt that may have caused you. But now you grow up and you get in your mind like, you know what? Now you make everybody else pay for what somebody else did to you. And you grow up and now you get on your job, and because of your insecurities, because of what somebody else may have done to you or what you may perceive, right? Now, because of those insecurities, now you're sitting around and you create this world to, in a sense, protect yourself, but it causing hurt and pain to everybody else around you. And they have to deal with your insecurities all because you refuse to address your what happened to you. And they're not responsible for that. You are responsible for that, regardless. Regardless. And a good evening. How you doing, Latar? And I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way, right? I don't want nobody to take this the wrong way. But what I am not saying that you may be responsible for what was done to you. That's not what I'm saying. Because people would do things to hurt us. People have done things to hurt us. People have done things to manipulate us. People have done things to cause us harm, even if it was intentional or not intentional. I am not saying that you are responsible for somebody else's actions. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that you are responsible for the decisions that you make. You are responsible for it. And a lot of times our insecurities, you are also responsible for your insecurities, because a lot of times our insecurities are a result of control mechanisms that we try to put in place to protect ourselves from the hurt that we are too afraid to address that somebody else may have caused us. But guess what? Just because you may not cause your pain, you are still responsible for your healing. You are still responsible for that, not somebody else. You are responsible for that. You can try to make, and that's the thing, right? That's the thing. That is the thing. Too many times we try to make other people responsible for our own healing. And even though they may be responsible for causing the pain, they are not responsible for our healing. You are the only one responsible for your healing. And we live our lives making decisions as if somebody else is responsible for our healing. That's why when we say healing, even if somebody apologizes, your healing process has to go through you. You are responsible for your healing process. You are responsible for that. We cannot expect somebody else to come in and heal us for it. Because guess what? No matter what, no matter how close to it, it can be your mama, your sister, your best friend, no matter what, nobody else knows the level of impact that hurt may have caused you but you. And you are the one that holds the key to unlocking the potential or even the chance of you healing in that area. Only you. Angelia said it all boils down to you are the only person you can change. Stop expecting everybody to think like you. People are going to be people. You may never get an apology from them. If you expect mediocrity, mediocrity, you will continue to get mediocrity. Yes. And you can't control nobody. And that's what I'm saying. What the whole preface of talking about this tonight is we waste so much time trying to make people responsible for our choices. We try to make people responsible for our lives. We try to hold people hostage to things that may were done to us, and we'll sit around blaming our parents. I've lived with my parents for 18 years. I'm 43 years old now. I've been outside of my parents' house for 25 years. It will be ridiculous and very stupid of me to continue to try to blame them for things that happened to me when I didn't live the majority of my life outside of the home and not in the home with them. Yes, they may have caused me some pain, but I didn't live more than my life than with them. So why am I still holding on to it, trying to blame them for it? You can acknowledge it. You can say, yeah, I know that happened. But guess what? I didn't live the majority of my life. So whatever my life is right now, 25 years later, is a result of my choices that I chose to, whatever that pain may have been, I chose to hold on to it. I chose to not to forgive. I chose to do all of these things, right? And stop trying to make other people responsible. Because most of the time, especially, and this is what I appreciate about living life, right? You will realize that some things you do that are not even intentional. Sometimes, man, this is good. Sometimes we can hurt the people that we love the most and it can be coming from our best efforts, but we don't even know it at the time. And it's not even intentional. And what happens is many people walk around wounded from hurt that wasn't even intentional, that came from people trying to give you the best. But because we refuse to address it, because we refuse to sit there and try to deal with that and take ownership of our own healing, we perpetuate that wound by staying mad and angry and trying to point blame and make other people responsible. But we are the ones continuously making those decisions in our lives, and a result of those decisions, we don't like it. The results of those decisions are not favorable, but we are hoping that somebody else will take responsibility for the choices that we are making, all because we chose not to choose to heal. It is not my responsibility. It's not theirs. It's not theirs. Listen, and I'm not saying this to be dismissive, but what I am saying in a space to where we just have to get to a space to where we can acknowledge that. And when we stop trying to make other people responsible, right? It's so many times, and I watch so many things, right? You have spouses trying to make their spouse responsible for things that their parents did to them. So in their mind, they get up and they'll say like, well, ain't nobody going to do this to me. Ain't nobody going to talk to me this way. Ain't nobody going to do all of this stuff, right? And we sit around and we take our frustration out on, and we try to make them responsible and try to make them expect them to cater to our insecurities for things they ain't had nothing to do with. And how fair is that? How fair is that for your husband to be angry at his mama for how his mama treated him and then take it out on the wife? How fair is it for the wife to be still carrying around the wounds because her daddy wasn't there? How fair is that or how their daddy treated their mama and talked to their mama and they're bringing all their energy towards you? How fair is that? And that's the space where we got to get to. That's a space that we got to start saying, you know what? They're not responsible for that. So I'm going to stop making them responsible or trying to make it. Miss Paige Banks said, I promise I did that. And now I'm hurt. But I didn't want to accept my part in the situation until it was brought to my attention that I was wrong. And I had to acknowledge that. Miss Paige Bank, I tell you, I appreciate your transparency. I really, really appreciate your transparency. And the reason why is we got to get to that space, right, to where we take ownership of our choices or our actions. And once we get to that space that we take ownership of our choices and our actions, what we'll realize is life becomes, I'm telling you, and I don't even know the situation, but I can guarantee you from personal experience, when we start taking ownership of it, we realize life becomes so much more peaceful because we're not carrying around all that extra and unnecessary weight. Eliminate that because we say, you know what, I'm just gonna go ahead on and do what I got to do. And watch this. I just have this I have this question, right? And it's a funny thing, but it's a reality, right? It's a reality. Why is it so hard for us to take ownership of when we're wrong? Why is it so hard that as people to say I'm sorry? Why is it so hard to apologize when we know we're wrong? Why would we just put so much energy into protecting things that we know that's not right, or justify our behavior when we know our behavior is not wrong? Why is it so hard? Because naturally, it's a natural thing for us to want to play the victim. It's a natural thing for us to rebel against accountability. And accountability feels like an attack to those who don't want to acknowledge their behavior, those who don't want to do better in the things that they have to or acknowledge their ways. But once you acknowledge your ways, right, and you will realize, like, dang, I'm wrong, and you will find life to be so much more be able to navigate through life so much easier when we start taking ownership for the things we do. The things we do. I mean, it's so much. I mean, we just don't like, man, we don't want nobody to do it. Think about it. Like, seriously, think about it. And I'm just using this tonight with spouses, right? You know you be wrong, but then we get mad when our spouse calls us out on it. We know we be wrong. We know it, or we know, we know a lot of other things. And watch this. This is a big thing. This right here is a big thing. When you refuse to deal with when you refuse to deal with your insecurities and you try to make other people responsible for it, right? You don't realize like how much a toxic environment that you create. And you can try to hide other stuff, but you cannot overcompensate your unwillingness to not deal with and address the causes or the source of your insecurities. You can try to push that. You can try to overcompensate. You can achieve whatever you want to achieve on your job. You can make whatever amount of money that you make, and you will still have to face yourself in the mirror and deal with the reality of the things that the cause of your insecurities. And that money ain't gonna overcome it. Those women and that achievement ain't gonna overcome it. That job or that position is not gonna overcome that reality until you deal with you, until you get the courage to deal with the person in the mirror. So we have to get to that space, and we have to acknowledge that. And I would tell you, we have to do that. Hey, what's going on, Nation? How you doing? She said, own our wrongs. Yes, and it just get and be willing. Not only that we have to own the things that we do or own our wrongs in our lives, but we have to get to a space to where we are willing, right, to be receptive, to have our ears being willing to hear the things in which we are wrong with, and not be so defensive on when people are telling us the things that we are wrong, and really get to a space where we, instead of just attacking back at it, we say, you know what, dang, I'm wrong. Or even get to a space where we're sensitive enough to acknowledge beforehand that the things that we do wrong, and we can be the ones to initiate and say, hey, look, I want to apologize to you because I was wrong in my action towards you. I was wrong in my behavior. Instead of somebody always being puffed up, and people like, no, just because we try, and a lot of times we try to justify our wrong just because we don't want to change. It's time to stop doing it. It's time to stop doing it. It is time to stop doing it. And I just want to say, man, tonight, I really appreciate you guys rocking with me with episode 123. And it's a joy to continue to do this thing. And I'm so excited that, just being obedient and doing this in 2023. I'm excited about just some things going on. Just continue to try to grow and do things and walk in. My prayer is that we continue to walk in our purpose. Don't be discouraged. Sometimes our biggest motivation is not going to come from the sources that we expected, that we should get it from. But that doesn't mean that we should not address or deal with or walk in the things in which we know deep down on the inside we should do. I appreciate that, Heather. Appreciate that. And I will tell you, to God be the glory for this. Hey, I will ask, man, go check me out on my YouTube channel, The Conversation 98. I'm on all social media platforms. You got me on Facebook here, The Conversation 98. Also have me on TikTok, The Conversation _98. On Instagram, The Conversation 98. Just go make sure you subscribe, support. Coming soon to you on podcast, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, all of that. We coming soon. We're trying to expand in 2023. I appreciate you more than you know. Got some new music coming out. January 31st. So new music coming out. Hey, Miss Paige Banks, thank you. She said it's really helped me. Thanks. Now to God be the glory. New music coming out. I am great. I am great. It's a song of affirmation. Song that I just felt necessary to put out there. So thank you guys so much for your support. Really appreciate you. See you guys next week. God bless.